So hello everybody, good morning, and I'm back. So we left off the last time on chapter 3 slides with basically the number of owners and how easy it is to set up a startup with different types of corporations, a proprietorship, a partnership, a limited partnership. Now a lot of this again is very general, and I think a lot of it's not really true in this day and age, and it's not something you have to really worry about. In fact, the interesting thing is to have here the corporation. It does have a lot of legal costs, as everyone knows, and maybe an S corporation. See, it says less than, but I believe it's 100 owners or less, right? Has legal costs, but again, a limited liability corporation. It says high time and legal costs, which is not really true. As I showed you on LegalZoom.com, you can get going in 10 minutes with that. So I mean, I don't understand why they say what they say here. So if you're going to start a company, to be honest with you, you can go online and within an hour you'll probably have a limited liability corporation up and running. Okay, so as far as liability goes, as we talked about, if you have your own little company, you have unlimited liability, and a single person, and of course you'll have to have insurance to cover that, right? I'm sure you'll have liability insurance. And as far as a partnership goes, again, it's unlimited, and as far if you're a limited partner, right? If you're a general partner, you'd have all the liability. And if you're limited, you'll have a limited liability here. It's just limited to what you invested, just like in a corporation, right? If the company goes belly up, they're not going to arrest you. You'll lose your money in the stocks. That's about it. Your stock will go to zero. All right. So again, here as I was just saying, here's a corporation, and it's limited to your shareholder investments. And here's an again, and an S subchapter S corporation is limited to shareholder investments, and likewise with all three of these, especially and with a limited liability, it's limited to your investments. So, but in all cases, of course, there's got to be insurance, a liability insurance. So, all right. So as far as getting cash or equity to fund these institutions that you set up. The owner normally has to come up with money, most likely through a loan, and all of these are pretty much the same, right? Basically, if you're a limited partner, you provide funds for the partnership, and that's what you'll do for that. And you're a some way you come up with money, either through venture capitalists or angel investors, and those are the magic words where most money comes from today. So as you can see, as we just said, here's venture investors and people who invest, a venture capitalist company or single investors like Warren Buffett's like an angel investor, right? From Berkshire Hathaway. He will give money to a company or invest in a company he feels is going to go up. And here's the items with regard to liquidity of ownership. And basically, the life of a single proprietorship is determined by the owner, and I don't believe it's as difficult to transfer as they say here. I mean, you set up a legal fund. Families take over when the original owner dies, right? So some of these are not really difficult to transfer ownership anymore. They all say the same thing's difficult to transfer ownership, and that's not really true. That can be taken care of. So technically, a corporation, a regular C corporation, has unlimited life, and transfer of ownership is simply selling your stocks and someone else buying them, right? So that's simple. You go on to your online broker and you buy and sell the shares, and then goodbye and hello to ownership, right? And again, you could transfer ownership. Well, as far as stocks go and everything, with an S chapter, if you're investing in that. You may have to find a individual investor who may be interested in buying what you own or investing in the company. And again, with a limited liability company, you'd have to sell it or transfer the papers to somebody if you wanted to get out. But it's not as simple. None of these are not as difficult as they sound. All right, so here's the taxation discussion with regard to all these forms of companies. And, proprietorship, and everything's a personal tax rate. You're taxed at your personal tax rate for all three of these: a proprietorship, a partnership, and a limited liability partnership. All right, C corporation, your dividends will be subject to personal taxes, and also the company has to pay taxes on the dividends they pay. So there's the infamous double taxation penalty that one has to be subjected to. All right, and S corporation, income flows to the shareholders and taxes, again, at personal tax rate. So you can see most of these are at personal tax rates. So no big deal there. All right, so intellectual property basically is a venture's intangible. Intangible means it's not physical, right? Tangible is physical, intangible is not physical. And a human capital, including inventions that can be protected from being freely used or copied by others. So, you do an NDA, or people have ideas in their head, and the secret formulas and whatever. And here's the 4 forms of protections, right? Patents, trade secrets, trademarks, and copyrights. And we'll go over those. All right, so a patent is intellectual property rights granted for inventions that, notice the words here, that are useful, novel, and non-obvious. All right, so these are the important words. All right. Actually, I'll highlight those. That's important to know. And let me just save this file. So, all right. So that's a patent, and people file patents for ideas that they've come up with, and they physically have they go to a patent attorney and they have drawings made. And then there's something called trade secrets. So these are intellectual property rights in the forms of inventions and information not generally known to others that convey economic advantages to the holders. Now, they won't patent these, right? They won't let anybody know about it. So this is kept kind of really secret, right? So this is a trade secret here that's different than a patent. It's kind of like it's basically kept very private. So, for instance, I guess you can say like the Coca-Cola formula, right? There's a lot of different formulas that are kept, quiet and secret. And it also goes for databases, right? A lot of companies now have databases, and they keep those quiet. They don't want to sell them or let anybody know about their databases, who their customer base is. Okay, whoops, what I did. I jumped too far here. All right, so we were at trade secrets. I don't know what happened there. All right, so trademarks are intellectual property rights that allow firms to differentiate their products and services through the use of unique marks. So, for instance, like the Coca-Cola can has that swirl on the on the red can, and basically Nike has a swoosh, and everyone has these different symbols that if you look at them, Apple has their little symbol, and now Amazon has their with the smile and the arrow going from A to Z. And copyrights protection for writings in printed and electronically stored forms. So if you buy a CD or a book and you decide to make copies of it and sell it on your own, you're going to get in big trouble, right? The lawyers will come chasing you for copyright infringement. Technically you're not allowed to copy CDs or DVDs or books, but there's a limitation, of course. You can go to a copy machine and make a bunch of copies for yourself as far as pages or a chapter, right? Or you can rip a CD easily these days on any computer. All right, so patent basics are intellectual property. So here's details on patents, right? Rights granted for inventions that, and again, here's the words: useful, novel, and non-obvious. And their patents are granted to the U.S. By the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, and you'll have a patent attorney. And as I just said here, you'll have to hire a lawyer to help you and get the documentation and the drawings together. All right, so there's different kinds of patents here, and there's a utility patent and a design patent, plant patents, and business method patents. Again, I was talking about databases, right? Computer codes and technology. So, I mean, you could read up on your books and, just kind of know the difference between these 4 different types of patents here. So this is utility is just a regular mechanical law patent, you hear about the most, right? And I guess people do, herpetology with plants, and there's patents on making different like bulbs and different colored plants and all that kind of sort of stuff. All right, so basically a new idea, this is very important, a new idea can't be patented. So you just can't have an idea and say, well, I got to patent this idea. Otherwise, everyone would have an idea and go crazy with patents, right? So the idea has to be part of an invention that has a physical form, such as a product, right? And this is for a utility patent. So it could also exist as a sequence of steps contained in a process for the delivery of a service. I guess like Amazon's Prime, buying stuff, right? There's a bunch of steps to order stuff or delivery on their Prime. All right, so the application process for utility patents, you come up with an invention, you develop an invention, you prepare an application, file it in the patent office, and if successful, the utility patent will be 20 years. Before that, it was 17 years. So you have 20 years. And this is why, you basically, Coke never patented their formula. They kept it as a trade secret. All right. So basically, you've probably seen the words on things, patent pending, as you see here. And this is a provisional application saying, well, we are filing a patent on this. And the patent will be pending on that. And you basically have to have an invention title for the provisional patent, description and drawings, and the like. And you've got to have all that stuff. And the provisional patent or patent pending will have a 12-month life. And within that time, one must file that patent application. That's very important. All right, so again, here's all the requirements as they go. And an inventor has to indicate the best use or method of practicing of carrying out the invention. All right, so why might it be rejected? A patent is rejected. The invention cannot just do nothing. It has to have an application and be useful, right? It has to do something, and it could not have been previously made. It has to described in a publication or patented, and obviously there's a huge database now of all patents, and it has to be non-obvious to a person with ordinary skills, something that somebody came up with that's basically a new, fresh idea. All right, so I'm going to cut off here, and I'll finish up the rest later. We're about 14 minutes into this presentation now. All right, talk to you later. Again, I'll go over these on Tuesday night.